Hey guys, it's been a while since you've heard my voice on the Vert, and it's been a busy month. That's all I can say. I know I've missed the first 4 weeks of the NFL season. The last thing I talked about in regards to football was Andrew Luck retiring, which seems like a lifetime ago. And I missed the first day of NBA preseason, which was this week, and I can explain myself. The last month has been so hectic. As some of you may know, I cover volleyball for the student newspaper here at my university, and that has just kept me so busy along with my schoolwork that I haven't had time to sit down and really write a proper show for you guys. But hopefully, now that things are seemingly calming down and conference play has started and the schedule's a bit more predictable, I can come back with some grade A, the vertical jump podcast content. So that's really my backstory as to where I went for a while. I wish I didn't take that leave of absence, especially an unannounced leave of absence, but I'm back now, and I'm back to creating quality podcasting content for your beautiful ears to listen and enjoy. So with that being said, I want to talk basketball, guys. I missed basketball so much. If you haven't been paying attention, the WNBA finals are on, and it seems like basketball in terms of everything is all around me. The WNBA finals, the NBA is right around the corner. College basketball seems to be right around the corner. Even high school basketball, which I do enjoy watching, seems to be right around the corner. And I'm excited. So with that being said, I've created a couple narratives and storylines for this upcoming NBA season that we should pay attention to. Now, the first one, you may get on me for this, but I have some self-vested interest, and that's, will the Oklahoma City Thunder be able to make the playoffs? Now, every time I bring this up with my friends whenever we're discussing basketball in the NBA, they look at me like I'm crazy. And I just want to say I'm not crazy in this. And I'm not the only one that can think that this Thunder team isn't as bad as everybody's projecting it out to be. So they've done all the lists. They've had 10 teams in the West that they believe are better than the Thunder. But what they're not accounting for in this new era of the West that seems to be deeper in terms of teams that can compete is the fact that teams are bound to underachieve. And so with that premise being said, that means some teams are bound to overachieve. And so everybody that tries to argue with me is that, well, can you name 8 teams that on paper are better than the Thunder? And of course you can. The Thunder's best player is Chris Paul, who's 34 years old. But you have to understand that Chris Paul also has some interest in this for himself. He's a 34-year-old who is expected to be making max money that has to show that he's still valuable in order to find himself on a championship contending team. He's a point guard who's one of the best of his generation that has yet to win an NBA championship. And if that's not a driving narrative for him having a great season this year, then I don't know what is exactly. I think Chris Paul is going to have a wonderful year. I think he could average 29 and 5 is my prediction. And the reason I believe that the Thunder can make the playoffs is this. If you look at their roster, they have a lot of still good quality NBA players. Chris Paul at the 1, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at the 2. He really is a combo guard with great size, 6'6", almost a 7-foot wingspan. You have Danilo Gallinari, Andre Roberson if he's ready to go, and then Steven Adams. And Chris Paul in day one of training camp said that Steven Adams is really good, one of the best players that Chris Paul has played with as of late. Aside from obviously James Harden, but if Chris Paul is complimenting Steven Adams already, and if Steven Adams is going to be featured in a more prominent role with Westbrook gone, I can see a season where Steven Adams can average 18 and 9, maybe even 18 and 10, 18 and 12, because he's finally going to be able to grab defensive rebounds with Westbrook. Not saying he deserves them all, but that's all besides the point. And so you have Danilo Gallinari, who last year was a 20-point per game scorer. You have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who has an incredible work ethic, and somebody the Clippers didn't want to give up in that Paul George deal, but they had to. You have Chris Paul, who has self-interest in restoring his value, and Billy Donovan in his presser said that Chris Paul's in great shape. Same with Sam Presti. When Sam Presti spoke to the media on the first day of training camp, he said Chris Paul's in amazing shape. So you have all these interests in the Thunder and them playing well. And then off the bench, you also have Dennis Schroeder, and you still have Nerlens Noel. And hey, we even have Mike Muscala. Sam Presti went to Mike Muscala's house to recruit him. So if is your GM going to free agents' houses to negotiate a deal? Because my GM is, and Mike Muscala is going to lead us. I need to stop. But if you look at it from the logistical point of view, with all these self-interests with the Thunder, each player has something that they need to play up to. Chris Paul needs to play up to his contract value. Danilo Gallinari's in a contract year, and players are known to play better in a contract year. And last year, he was a 20-point-per-game scorer. Steven Adams is going to be a more prominent figure within the Thunder offense. Maybe he'll even get some post-up touches. And Chris Paul has been praising Steven Adams and how much better he has gotten over the summer. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a young guy with smooth athleticism, a guy that can get his shot off, a guy that shot 37% from three. And Roberson's working his way back into the lineup. I could probably see Terrence Ferguson starting in terms of like day one going into the regular season, who's going to be the starter night one opening night for the Thunder. It might be Terrence Ferguson. We're just not sure about how good Andre Roberson is still going to be after being out for almost what seems to be like 2 years. And then you have Dennis Schroeder, who also needs to build his value up in order to find a new destination, because I don't believe that he's going to be on the Thunder long term, and he can't be in the Thunder's long-term rebuilding plan. And then you have Sam Presti talking about building what is known as consistency and sustainability. Now, the Thunder just got out of this 11-year run. This 11-year run where they missed the playoffs only once. And so from the time they missed it in 2009, and then they made it the following year, and then one other year besides that up to this point. Now, that is what Sam Presti's model is. He wants to have consistently good teams. Now, if you think about it, having 11 years of consistent success is still, if not on par with winning a championship. See, when we lost Westbrook, I was in this whole mode of, we had Westbrook, James Harden, Kevin Durant, and we didn't win a championship. And yeah, it sucks that we didn't win a championship with those cats. But isn't 11 years of great basketball something that should be praised as well? That the Thunder, for that 11-year run, were one of the premier teams in the NBA, especially being a small market team. So we can harp on Sam Presti all we want, but to have 11 years of sustained great basketball amidst losing James Harden, amidst losing Kevin Durant, amidst losing Serge Ibaka, amidst losing Reggie Jackson, amidst losing Enes Kanter. The list can go on and on. But to have a level of basketball that is sustainable is far better than going all in and not winning the championship within a 1 or 2 year window. And that's what Sam Presti's building here in Oklahoma City. So I think that the Thunder, it's not in their best interest to completely tank the season and end up like, I don't know, the Phoenix Suns, because I'm not sure how well that would work out, because the Phoenix Suns, for one, they've seemingly been tanking for the last 4 or 5 years of my life, and all they have to show for it is a Devin Booker who puts up empty numbers, and now they have Ayton, but how good are they going to be? They gave Ricky Rubio a lot of money to be a bit above average at the point guard spot, and that's all besides the point. But this is all to say that the Thunder aren't necessarily fully rebuilding right now. What happened this summer is they retooled for a year that's, if we make the playoffs, that's great. And I've talked myself into the fact that we have an opportunity to make the playoffs, especially when you look at the roster we have and the fact that some teams are bound to underperform. But if we also miss the playoffs by 1 or 2 spots, it's not the end of the world. It's not like we missed the playoffs with Russ and PG. And so the Thunder have nothing to lose at this point. They have completely nothing to lose. And at the end of the day, when teams have nothing to lose and everything to play for, that's when teams are capable of overachieving. And that's why I also feel that this Thunder team is capable of overachieving. So that's one storyline headed into this madness. It's going to be the NBA season. The next storyline I have, Russell Westbrook and James Harden. The Rockets played their first preseason game against the Shanghai Sharks. Russell Westbrook didn't play. and James Harden unveiled his one-footed three. He also had a triple-double by halftime. And this game really, I understand that it's a meaningless preseason game, but it kind of brought to light some aspects about this Russell Westbrook and James Harden pairing that I have some questions about. Is how much will James Harden yield ball control to Russell Westbrook? Because in an earlier podcast during the summer, I talked about the way the Rockets can be successful is if you keep James Harden off ball and keep Russell Westbrook on the ball. Russell Westbrook is an extremely inefficient catch-and-shoot shooter. I don't know why people have talked themselves into believing that he's suddenly going to be something he's not. Russell Westbrook is transcended in transition, so is James Harden. And if you put Russell Westbrook on the ball, have him pushing the pace, he drives and attracts the defense and kicks out to James Harden, who shoots 41% from three on catch-and-shoots. It can lend them both to having one of the most efficient seasons of their career. And I also believe that this Russell Westbrook and James Harden pairing is going to lend itself to Clint Capella having a great season because of the amount of lobs that he's going to be able to catch from Russell Westbrook and James Harden. And so my second storyline is just, how good is this Rockets team going to be? They gave Eric Gordon his money, but that contract had some stipulations regarding if they either win a championship by the third season or if he makes All-NBA team or something like that, then the money's guaranteed for that third season. But will Houston be as good as advertised? So that's the second headline. The third headline going into the season for me is, how does Paul George and his injury affect the Clippers long term? Because we like to think that things that happen now happen in a microcosm and happen immediately, and they're not projected over long periods of time. That's what we like to believe. That's what we like to think. But if you look at, again, not to talk about the Thunder too much, but if you look at all the little events that added up to the big events, then you can see that everything is linked and everything is linear and everything is connected. With that being said, Paul George not being ready to play until November is going to be a bit of an issue for the Clippers. They've gone all in on this Kawhi and Paul George duo, and they've given them some great backup, and they have a really deep team with Lou Will and Montrezl Harrell, Magruder, Patrick Beverley. They have a good team. But Paul George missing time, and we know how Paul George plays. He tends to struggle when it comes to closing out seasons, and I can say this because we have enough evidence to do so. He tends to struggle staying healthy down the stretch and having that extra oomph come playoff time, and he's fizzled out a plethora of times in the playoffs. So how does this injury now affect Paul George down the line? Is he going to be slightly more rested because he started his season a bit later than everybody else, and maybe this shoulder injury was a blessing in disguise? Or is he going to be a bit off kilter, off rhythm, and because of that the Clippers struggle early and they have to play their stars big minutes down the stretch in order to affect playoff seeding? It's just going to be funny to see how this November shoulder injury is going to affect the Clippers long term. The fourth headline I have, or fourth storyline for the NBA season, is the Lakers. And I know before you say, I've heard this all before, the Lakers this, the Lakers that, I'm saying the storyline is the Lakers defense is going to be incredible. Frank Vogel, who is known to be a defensive head coach, seems to be really buying in to anchoring this defense around Anthony Davis. And I understand LeBron hasn't played defense in a while. He's getting older. But I think that this Lakers team finally has something to play for again. With LeBron not sabotaging the locker room like he did last year, and with Anthony Davis finally in-house, I think they have all the necessary tools and all the necessary length. If everybody buys in to have the league's best defense, especially with Anthony Davis and the amount of shots that he affects at the rim, I think that's a really big factor in how everything can play out for them. And so that's my fourth headline. The fifth is the Denver Nuggets apparently are no longer the favorites to win their division, and it's the Utah Jazz. And the Utah Jazz has become this sexy team for everybody that is an NBA head, the smart guy NBA side, where they're like, if you're not buying in to the Utah Jazz, you must not know basketball. And how do you just hand over the favorite to Utah when the Denver Nuggets were a top 2 team last year. And at that, they were really good. And this offseason, they added Jeremy Grant from the Thunder, who was really good last year. They still have Jokic, who I think is still going to get better and still has room to grow in his game. They inked up Jamal Murray for a long-term deal. And they've really doubled down on the guys that they have there. And I think they should still be the favorite headed into this NBA season. I think that they have a good chance to make a finals this season. I think that group of guys, they have continuity. They've played together for a while. They understand how to play off Jokic, and that matters. With all the movement in the NBA, continuity no longer really exists. But the Denver Nuggets seem to have it, and they've doubled down on it. And it's stuff like that kind of separates these teams that are thrown together, bought, whatever you want to say, versus the teams that have, played with each other and gone through that fire and felt that heartache of disappointment like the Nuggets did this past playoff run. And so those are really my 5 overarching themes or ideas that I'm looking forward to seeing play out in the regular season. And I think that this NBA season is going to be one of extreme excitement and fun, and I just love basketball, man. I think basketball is one of the best sports ever created, and it's just amazing. My name's Ian Kayandji. You're listening to The Vert. I'm going to take a break, and I'll be right back. All right, welcome back. I got some water in me. My throat was getting extremely dry, and so I needed to take a break from talking. I felt like I was talking a mile a minute too. So, I want to talk about, again, continuity within team sports. It's come up a lot with our generation, especially the younger generation, that if you're not happy in your situation, just leave. And it's kind of bled its way into sports, and it's empowered athletes to go out and say that, I have 3 or 4 years left on my deal, but I hate it here. That I want to trade. Trade me now. Trade me now. And we've seen that a lot in the NBA especially. My argument for this is I'm all for player empowerment. And I get that it can be somewhat tricky when you are arguing, if you don't like players going to different teams or making their situation better for themselves, that means you're for the owner. How are you against the player? You're for the owner. And I'm here to say that no, I'm not necessarily for the owner. I think the pendulum has just swung so far in the whole player empowerment direction that to a degree it's created a sports product that's unsustainable. And I think that that's okay to say. Like, the sports product that we have now in the NBA is unsustainable. That you can buy somebody's jersey and then a day later they demand a trade. And it's gotten so bad that we have jersey insurance now, guys. That's crazy to me. And I'm not trying to be the old guy that's saying, get off my lawn, you just don't understand. And I get that can be the way it's coming off. But I'm saying that players changing teams so much, the way that they have in the last 4 or 5 years, heck, even since LeBron had his great decision, it creates a sport dynamic that just really reveals that nobody's ever actually happy. And it's rare to see somebody happy in their professional sport situation. I mean, think about it. A team that had the most continuity in recent years, a team that stuck together for the longest time, was that Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant pairing. But as a fan, we didn't know that Kevin Durant was so drastically unhappy in Oklahoma City. And we had his piece came out that he talked about Oklahoma City and Sam Presti. But as fans, you didn't know the way they played together. It seemed that everything was just working out. The ball wasn't bouncing in Oklahoma City's favor. Another example of great continuity is now the late Warriors with Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and now D'Angelo Russell, who's come into the fold. That team has been a team of great continuity. And then before D'Angelo Russell got there and when Kevin Durant jumped ship to join them, It was Kevin Durant is now joining something that was built organically, and he therefore made it inorganic. And it created this deep resentment for that Golden State Warriors team. It created this situation where we loved Golden State because they did it so organically, and the players bought in, and that they wanted to make things work where they're at. And then once Kevin Durant came, he vilified them. And he made something that was originally pure almost evil. And that's not me going out of the way and now comparing basketball to ethics and morals, because Kevin Durant, I'm sure, is a great guy. I'm saying that in terms of the fan perspective, Golden State was the enemy. And so sports where players are changing teams so drastically creates this pendulum that is swung so far in player empowerment that the owners are in fear that you can sign a player to a max deal, 5 years, upwards of $200 million, and then the next day he tweets, I'm unhappy in Washington, I'm unhappy in Minnesota, I'm unhappy in LA. And so what does that do for the team? The team that has just doubled down on their superstar player, the team that says, this is our guy, we're going to try to build around him, is now stuck in this mode of, well, I guess he's just going to forego what we're trying to build here and trying to accomplish, and now say that he wants to play somewhere else. Sports without a lack of continuity eventually has fading storylines, because how many times can you drive the storyline of, oh, how will this player play on this new team? I think some of the great stories are the teams that have gotten so close that they can taste victory, and then they face defeat, and that happens a couple times over. And then finally, they break through. Think about how great the narrative was that Cleveland hadn't won anything in 50-some years. And they got so close to tasting success, tasting victory, and it'd be gone. Just like that. It'd be gone. A fleeting moment. Versus finally in 2016, when the Cavs broke through. And that Cavs team had continuity because they had LeBron, they had Love, they had Kyrie. They had their guys. And then think about when that all ended. When Kyrie declared for a trade and it seemed that LeBron was out the door for a year and counting. That continuity was ruined. And so even if somehow the Cavs had pulled off the ultimate upset and beat Golden State with Kevin Durant, it wouldn't be the same type of championship. When continuity gets ruined in professional sports, the storylines fade. It's why people love college sports so much. You hear the argument that, oh, college football is better than the NFL. And what they're talking about isn't strictly the football product. Because the NFL, if we're talking in pure athletes, the NFL is far better than the college brand of football. But if we're talking about storylines, and if we're talking about personal interest and human interest in the game, college will always have the better storyline. Because college has continuity. They have guys for 3-4 years. They have guys, you see guys grow up in front of you. You see guys get so close to tasting success and boom, gone. And then by their senior year, you see them finally reach that pedestal or hill that they were climbing. And that's what drives the narrative. And that's why you see a lot of people and a lot more people and a different brand of people get involved in collegiate athletics because the continuity is there. Now, should players be paid on their likeness? That's a whole debate for another day, and we'll definitely get into that on this podcast at some point. But I'm saying professional leagues without continuity, when players are turning over teams year in, year out, declaring trades immediately after signing long-term deals, creates a league that's not sustainable. And for the NBA to really find its groove again in terms of player to owner management ratio, I really should be saying governor because the NBA changed that term. But for the NBA to find that balance, we kind of have to bring the pendulum back. Now, I'm not pro-owner, but it's getting ridiculous that half the league is turning over every other year. And so we got to rein it in. We got to rein it in and build continuity again within the NBA. If you've made it to this point in the podcast, you made it to the end. I know it feels good to be back. It feels good to be creating content for you guys again. I'm glad to be back. And so going forth, I'm going to try to at least upload once a week. And if you feel that I should upload more, then just talk to me about it. I'm open. You can reach me on my socials on Instagram at IAN_KAYJAY. On my Twitter is at IANKAY. All of those will be found in this podcast description. You could go check out my profile, follow me, do whatever you guys do. Ask me questions about sports. I'm open to anything. This podcast is hosted by me, run by me, produced by me, and everything in between. It's my baby. I love to do this stuff. And so going forth, I'm hoping to be more consistent in my uploads and be more consistent in sharing my ideas with you guys, because it's what I love to do. I love you guys. I love the guys that support the Vertical Jump podcast. So as always, may the rest of your day be the best of your day. Cheers and good luck.